I sat alone at the old oak dining table in my small apartment. The room was quiet, so quiet that I could hear the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. In front of me was a birthday cake that I had bought for myself earlier that afternoon. It was a light lemon chiffon cake covered with smooth vanilla buttercream frosting. I had ordered it from my favorite bakery, the one I used to walk past after work when I wanted something sweet after a long day. On top of the cake were 30 candles. They were small and thin, and their little flames flickered gently in the dim light of the room. Each candle stood for 1 year of my life. 30 years. 30 years of trying to be seen. 30 years of feeling like I didn't really matter to my own family. I watched the candles quietly and waited, even though deep inside I already knew the truth. They were not coming. My phone suddenly buzzed on the table, breaking the silence. I picked it up and looked at the screen. It was a message from Mom. Family Zoom in 10 minutes. Big news. I stared at the message for a moment and sighed softly. I already knew what the big news would be. Earlier that day, I had overheard my sister Seraphine talking loudly on speakerphone while she was walking through the house. She was excited and almost shouting with happiness. She was telling someone about a surprise trip to Bali. It was going to be her graduation gift for finishing her MBA. I remembered hearing the excitement in her voice as she talked about beaches, luxury resorts, and meeting powerful business leaders. The same MBA degree I had finished 8 years ago. But when I graduated, there had been no celebration. No cake. No card. No dinner. Not even a simple "we're proud of you." Just silence. A few minutes later, the Zoom call connected. Their faces appeared on the screen one by one. Mom sat straight in her chair wearing her usual pearls and a neat Calvin Klein blazer. She always looked perfectly put together, like she was going to an important meeting. Dad was still wearing the same button-down shirt he wore at his law office. His tie was loose and he looked tired but serious as always. Seraphine sat between them, smiling brightly like a shining star. She held up a colorful brochure showing a luxury eco-resort in Bali. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. None of them noticed the birthday cake sitting right behind me. No one asked about it. No one said happy birthday. "We need to talk about your birthday dinner," Dad said, clearing his throat like he was starting a business meeting. He was talking about the reservation I had made at Langston's restaurant. I had booked that dinner 6 months earlier. It was supposed to be special. For once, my whole family had promised they would come. They had missed my last 3 birthdays. But this year they said it would be different. "Seraphine has been accepted to an elite networking summit in Bali," Mom said quickly. "It's a rare opportunity for her career," she continued. "So we're reallocating the funds." I sat very still, trying to keep my voice calm. "You mean the money I've been saving from my paycheck?" I asked quietly. When I first joined Dad's law firm as a junior legal associate, I had opened a small family account. I told them it would be used for special celebrations and family events. Every month, I quietly deposited a part of my salary into that account. They never asked where the money came from. They never even seemed curious. They also never noticed that the quiet associate they treated like a simple office helper had slowly worked her way up to become a senior legal counsel. "Elara, don't be petty," Seraphine said with a scoff. She leaned back in her chair and flipped her hair. "This retreat could help me become a CEO someday." I looked at her for a moment. Seraphine always dressed in designer blazers and posted pictures online about her future executive life. Everything in her world looked shiny and perfect. She always received praise easily. Things that I had to fight twice as hard to earn. What none of them knew was something very important. Langston's restaurant belongs to me now. 6 months earlier, I had quietly bought the restaurant through my private company. And on Monday, the law firm would officially announce something else. I had been named partner. I slowly leaned forward and blew out the candles on my cake. One by one the tiny flames disappeared. But inside my chest, something else began to burn brighter. A steady, quiet fire. Let them enjoy their trip. I was done paying for other people's dreams. "If only she knew," Dad said with a chuckle. "We already booked her tickets," he added proudly. "First class," Mom said. "The retreat starts next week, so we had to act quickly." "With my birthday money?" I asked again calmly. They looked a little uncomfortable for a moment. "Well," Mom said, waving her hand as if it didn't matter. "You can celebrate another time. This opportunity is too big," she continued. "The retreat is hosted by Willow Ridge Global Enterprises. Do you know what that could mean for Seraphine's career?" Oh, I knew exactly what it meant. The thought almost made me laugh. "Fine," I said as I stood up from the table. "Take the money." All three of them blinked in surprise. They had expected an argument. They had expected tears. I hope the trip is everything you want it to be, Seraphine. She narrowed her eyes suspiciously. That's it, she asked. No tantrum? No drama? I simply smiled and picked up the untouched birthday cake. I have an early meeting tomorrow. Before anyone could say anything else, I ended the call. Later that night, I drove back to my real home. A large penthouse apartment high above downtown Chicago. The city lights sparkled below like thousands of tiny stars. I kicked off my heels and walked into my home office. 6 large computer monitors lit up the dark room. Each screen showed business dashboards and financial reports from Willow Ridge Global. My phone buzzed again. Elara, everything is ready for tomorrow, Althea said through the speaker. The board votes are confirmed. Sinclair & Cole will officially become a Willow Ridge company at 9 a.m. They had no idea. For 5 long years, I had secretly built Willow Ridge Global from the ground up. I kept my name hidden from everyone. While working quietly inside Sinclair & Cole, I carefully studied the company. I learned every weakness, every mistake, every poor decision made by leadership. No one questioned the quiet associate. No one paid attention to the woman sitting quietly in the corner office. No one saw the storm coming. But tomorrow morning, the storm will finally arrive. My parents would be removed from their positions as Chief Financial Officer and Marketing Director. Seraphine's invitation to the Bali retreat would also disappear. The retreat itself had never been what she thought it was. It was actually a corporate research program designed to identify young professionals with strong narcissistic traits. Seraphine had been flagged red many times. I looked at a framed photo on my desk. It showed me at age 25. I had just been rejected for a promotion that I had clearly earned. They told me I was not leadership material. Now I was the one rewriting the entire leadership structure. Is the CEO announcement ready? I asked Althea. Ready to go, she replied. Sinclair & Cole will be introduced to the public by noon. Perfect. They had taken my birthday dinner money to fund Seraphine's dream trip. But by Monday morning, they would learn something important. The quiet daughter they ignored was no longer someone small. She was their boss. And their future was already decided. 5 years of careful planning. 5 years of quiet patience. 5 years of letting them believe I was the shy, unimportant daughter while I built an empire behind the scenes. Oh, and Elara, Althea added. Yes. Langston's called. They upgraded your birthday reservation to a full restaurant buyout. The board thinks it will be the perfect place to announce you as the new owner of Sinclair & Cole. I looked again at the photo frame on my desk. It was from Seraphine's MBA graduation. Everyone stood proudly at the front of the picture. Smiling. Celebrating. I was barely visible in the background, holding someone's coat. Tomorrow, that invisible version of me would finally disappear. Perfect, I said as I opened my laptop. Let's give them a Monday they will never forget. Monday morning arrived bright and clear. I dressed carefully, choosing something different from the simple suits I usually wore to the office. Today I wore a beautiful black Chanel dress. It was elegant and simple, powerful but quiet. My red Louis Vuitton heels clicked softly against the hardwood floor of my penthouse as I walked toward the elevator. By 7 a.m., I stepped through the glass doors of Sinclair & Cole. The security guard gave me the same bored look he had given me for years. He had no idea that the company he was protecting now belonged to me. I took the elevator up to the 15th floor. My small cubicle looked exactly the same as always. The space was cramped and decorated with colorful sticky notes and old family photos. A framed Employee of the Month award from 3 years ago sat beside a fake potted plant. My parents had never once mentioned it. Elara? Seraphine's voice suddenly appeared behind me. Too cheerful. She walked past wearing a sharp white suit that looked very expensive. What are you doing here so early? She asked. Finishing boring reports? I kept my voice calm. Congratulations on the Bali retreat. She smirked proudly. Well, they recognize talent when they see it. Then she leaned closer. I heard Willow Ridge Global might try to take over our company. Dad is worried it could be a hostile takeover. I looked down at my watch. 7:30 a.m. Is that so? I said quietly. You should really try to stay informed, she continued. Oh wait, she laughed. Board meetings are for executives only. Maybe later I'll explain how real business works. She winked and walked away proudly. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Elara, Althea said. Teams are in position. Operation Karma has begun. At 8:45, I stepped into the service elevator. But instead of going down to the boardroom, I went up, past the executive floor. At the very top was a private suite I had personally designed. Inside was a large conference room with thick glass walls, soundproof panels, and huge windows showing the entire Chicago skyline. Only one person had access. Me. The next hour would end several careers. It would change the future of the entire company. And it would finally reveal the truth my family had ignored for years. Their quiet daughter wasn't just successful. She owned everything. And she was finished hiding. Through a hidden observation window above the executive boardroom, I watched everyone arrive. Board members entered first. Then senior partners. Finally, my family. Mom stood beside Seraphine, fixing her hair and whispering something that made them both laugh. Dad stood at the head of the table, organizing his papers confidently. The other board members looked nervous. But my parents looked completely relaxed. At exactly 9 a.m., the boardroom doors opened. Althea walked in calmly with 2 Willow Ridge security officers and our legal team. Dad's face immediately darkened. "What is the meaning of this?" he shouted. "This is a private board meeting." Althea gave a calm, professional smile. "Mr. Sinclair, my name is Althea Williamson. I am the acting CEO of Willow Ridge Global Enterprises. We are here to confirm the final stage of your company's acquisition." Mom gasped in shock. "Acquisition?" Althea nodded. Our legal team handed blue folders to each board member. "Effective immediately," Althea explained. "Sinclair & Cole LLP is now fully owned by Willow Ridge Global. These documents include signed board approvals, transfer of control, and upcoming leadership changes." Seraphine suddenly jumped up from her chair. "What? But I'm supposed to fly to the Bali executive retreat tomorrow. I was selected for the elite leadership track." Althea looked at her calmly. "That program has been officially discontinued due to company restructuring." Dad flipped through the documents quickly, his face turning pale. "This is illegal," he shouted. "How could this happen without us knowing?" Althea tilted her head slightly. "Perhaps you were too focused on promoting family instead of talent," she replied calmly. "The board has been aware of this process for several months and fully supports it." I watched as my father's face slowly lost all color. The board members said nothing. Many of them actually looked relieved. "But who approved this?" Mom asked quietly. That was my moment. I reached out and pressed the hidden button beside the observation wall. With a soft hiss and a quiet click, the wall slowly began to slide open. I stepped out onto the private staircase above the boardroom. The sound of my high heels echoed through the quiet hallway like a slow drum. The people inside the meeting room were talking, but the moment they heard my voice, everything stopped. "I think I can answer that, Mother," I said calmly. Every head in the room turned toward me. Dad's mouth opened wide in surprise. Mom blinked again and again as if she hoped I would disappear. Seraphine's confident smile, the one she always used for Instagram photos, froze on her face. "Elara?" Dad said, his voice shaky. "Yes," I replied as I walked forward into the light. "Willow Ridge belongs to me." The room became very quiet. "I built it quietly while you ignored me," I continued. "While you spent all your time, money, and support on your favorite child." Seraphine quickly stood up from her chair. "You're only a junior associate," she said loudly. "Was," I corrected calmly. "Now I'm the one signing your termination papers." People around the big table whispered to each other. The board members looked surprised but also curious. No one had expected this moment. In just a few seconds, everything had changed. The daughter they ignored was now the boss they had to listen to. I stood there calmly, remembering all the years I had worked quietly. I smiled a little, thinking about all the nights I spent sitting alone at my kitchen table with my laptop. While everyone thought I was struggling in a small beginner job, I was actually planning something much bigger. I sent business emails late at night, using encrypted messages. I had important strategy calls that sounded like simple errands if someone overheard them. Every step was part of a careful plan. "Actually," I said as I opened a folder in my hands, "you will see that this is very possible." I looked at my assistant. "Althea, please give everyone the new organization charts." Althea nodded and quickly walked around the room. She handed out clean black binders to every board member. Each binder had the Willow Ridge Global seal printed clearly on the front. Everyone opened the binders and began reading. The next 60 minutes felt like watching a very careful and slow storm. Piece by piece, the empire my parents built started to fall apart. Their executive positions were removed. Their company credit cards were canceled. The private jet Amanda loved to take selfies in was permanently grounded. All the things they used to show their power and luxury were taken away with one vote after another. You can't do this to us, Mom cried suddenly. Tears ran down her face and ruined her expensive makeup. We're family. Family? I repeated softly, raising one eyebrow as I slowly stood up. Was it family when you canceled my birthday dinner just so Seraphine could go on a vacation to Bali? The room became silent again. Was it family when you gave her an executive consultant position while I kept asking for a simple promotion? Althea looked at me gently. When they what, Miss Sinclair? She asked. I turned and faced the entire boardroom. I straightened the lapel of my jacket and spoke calmly. When they forget that the quiet people are sometimes the ones you should watch the most. After that meeting, the next 24 hours became very busy. There were meetings after meetings to restructure the company. Emails and memos were sent to every department. News reporters started sharing the story everywhere. I sat in my new office, which used to belong to my father. 3 large monitors on the wall showed news headlines moving across the screen. Sinclair and Cole took over in a silent power move. Elara Sinclair revealed as the new CEO of Willow Ridge Global. Analyst becomes mastermind behind billion-dollar company takeover. My phone would not stop buzzing. Relatives I had not heard from in 10 years suddenly wanted to reconnect. Old classmates sent cheerful messages like, I always knew you would become a boss. Even my childhood piano teacher sent me an email with the subject line. Congratulations, Elara. You always had perfect timing. But the messages that truly mattered came from my family. Dad wrote, we need to talk. I don't understand how this happened. Mom wrote, darling, we can fix this somehow. Family is family. Seraphine sent 27 messages in a row, all written in capital letters. You ruined my life. What am I supposed to tell my followers? I was reading the messages when someone knocked on my office door. Come in, I said. Althea stepped inside carrying a thick stack of reports. The transition team has finished their audit, she explained as she sat across from me. I had replaced my father's huge leather chair with a modern one made especially for me. Althea placed the file on the desk. Your father's financial records are very concerning. I leaned forward slightly. What do you mean? He has been secretly using company money for many years, she said. A lot of it was spent on Seraphine's lifestyle. She turned a page in the report. First-class airplane tickets, fake consulting salaries, expensive spa visits labeled as client meetings. The board members are very angry about it. I smiled a little. They should be, I replied. I'm angry too. And what about my mother's marketing department? I asked. Althea looked uncomfortable. It's worse than we expected, she admitted. She filled the team with Seraphine's friends. Many of them don't have the right experience. Some of them are even being paid double the normal salary. The entire department needs to be rebuilt. I leaned back in my chair and looked out the large window. The tall buildings of Chicago were shining brightly in the morning sunlight. Tell the legal team to start a full audit, I said slowly. I want every detail written down. It's already in progress, Althea replied. Then she paused for a moment. Your parents are downstairs. They asked to see you. Of course they had. I looked at my reflection on the dark screen of my computer. My hair looked perfect. My lipstick was neat. I looked calm, confident, and completely in control. Send them up, I said. And ask security to stay nearby just in case. 5 minutes later, the office door opened again. My parents walked in quietly. For the first time in my life, they didn't look powerful. Dad's tie was crooked. Mom's mascara had smudged under her eyes. The perfect image they always showed the world had completely disappeared. Elara, Dad began softly. He looked around the room. The office had changed a lot. The old oil paintings were gone. The heavy leather chairs and gold decorations had been removed. Now the room was simple and modern with clean designs and glowing digital screens. His empire had been completely redesigned. Please sit, I said politely, pointing to the guest chairs in front of my desk. They slowly sat down. Those were the same chairs where I once sat while they told me I did not have leadership skills. Mom looked at me with shaking hands. How could you do this? She asked. We are your parents. That's interesting, I replied calmly while opening a file on my computer. Let's talk about what that really meant. I pressed a key. A recording began to play. It was Dad's voice. Keep Elara in her current position. She is not promotional material. I pressed another key. Now it was Mom speaking during a meeting. Don't add Elara to the leadership program. Give that chance to Callista, Seraphine's friend. I continued playing recording after recording. Each one showed how they secretly stopped my career from growing. Dad looked shocked. How did you even record all of this? He asked quietly. I smiled. Did you ever wonder why I chose the cubicle next to the server room? Slowly they understood. All those late nights, Mom whispered. You were collecting evidence. Yes, I said calmly. While you were promoting Seraphine's influencer branches as a marketing strategy, I was buying technology companies across 3 continents. While Dad was creating fake jobs for Seraphine's friends, I was building Willow Ridge into the biggest transformation company in the Midwest. Dad looked confused. But how did you pay for all of this? Remember Grandma's inheritance? I asked. The one you said I wasted. They stayed silent. That silence gave me my answer. I stood up and walked slowly to the window. Now Sinclair and Cole belong to me, I said. But I'm not cruel. Human Resources has prepared generous severance packages for both of you. Severance? Mom whispered. And Seraphine? Dad asked. She will need to find a real job, I replied calmly. Maybe starting at the bottom will teach her what it truly takes to reach the top. Dad looked angry. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Destroying everything. No, I answered quietly. I'm rebuilding it the right way. 2 security guards appeared at the office door. You have 1 hour to clear your offices, I said calmly. The decision is final.